Okay, so this is the fourth part of our healthcare and the Constitution discussion. I'm going to try to make this, hopefully this will be the last video. I'm trying to make it pretty short. I noticed in the last video I did a little, I looked at it and I said John Madison. It's of course James Madison, you know, the guy who wrote the U.S. Constitution. Sorry about that. So anyways, what I was saying was the fourth best one of the methods, or one of the constitutional arguments available to use against the healthcare bill in court is rate-making cases. Is the rulings in rate-making cases. Now, let me explain. According to the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, the government needs to the government is allowed to take property. It has to show a public use. It has to show that taking the property was necessary, and they need to, but they're also required to reimburse the owners of the property, and they're required by the Constitution to reimburse it at a fair value. Usually, you know, think about it. We usually think about that in the context of eminent domain law. Government comes in, takes somebody's property, buys up, and they have to buy their property. They condemn the property, then they buy it at fair market value. Now, the Supreme Court, there's a whole bunch of cases that kind of shifts that to in the context of the regulatory state, when, and they're called the rate-making cases because essentially the federal government has essentially made private companies that sort of remain private and are run by private individuals, but they've essentially made them utilities, right? In the federal government, I guess the best example is that the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission essentially regulates gas pipeline companies. Now, what happens is obviously they haven't taken their property, but essentially the Supreme Court has ruled that when the government regulates a business to the point where that business really doesn't have control over the cost of its business, that it must provide that company the ability to set rates where they're justly compensated for, given that they've either invested capital in that business and that they have significant costs related to running that business. So there's tests that the Supreme Court has applied, and we're not going to get into those, but essentially the Senate healthcare bill that Obama signed today has essentially turned formerly private health insurance companies into utilities, right? They're required to join the healthcare exchange in the states where they do business, and in order to join those healthcare exchanges, they have to adhere to the regulations that the government has set, and they're pretty onerous regulations. Health insurance industry has determined its costs and has done a lot of cost control through, what the Democrats keep saying are these heinous, terrible practices, which are, pre-existing conditions, not allowing people on the insurance plan under pre-existing conditions, not covering certain diseases. There's a whole slew of ways that health insurance companies limit their costs and make a little money, right? the whole theory about why this healthcare bill is unconstitutional is essentially the regulations. Again, they make the health insurance industries, healthcare insurers, utilities, but they burden them with so much regulation. In addition, they have kind of like cost controls and subsidies. And there's a couple rules in there that I didn't quite understand. I was reading this article about it. I didn't quite understand, but there's a couple rules in there that really prevent them from making much profit. In other words, their cost to profit ratio is very low, and that's set by law. So the argument is that the regulations, the cost controls, and actually the vague procedure that has been provided in the bill for the state and federal government to make the rates, to set the rates that will be allowable for the health insurers to apply to their customers is so vague that it doesn't meet the Supreme Court standard of a fair and just compensation when the government essentially makes a private company, a utility. So that's probably, and from what I read, the person who wrote it is a law professor, and he was pretty convinced that if the architecture of the bill stayed the way it was when he wrote the article, which is a couple months ago, and it's pretty similar. I mean, he talked about the original Senate bill, which changed just a little bit. He was pretty sure that was a slam dunk, because it's quite obvious that the government essentially intends to run a lot of health insurers out of business. And it regulates health insurers who are not even in the exchange. He explained that there's a way that they do that, and it makes it very hard for certain type of insurers to exist outside of the exchange. So that's probably the best argument. There's a fifth way, and the fifth way is simply Article 5 of the Constitution. 2/3 of the states get together and try to write a constitutional amendment that prevents the federal government from establishing a healthcare plan in the states. I don't know if there's a political will for that, but boy, I think there should be. Anyways, yeah, well, I guess that's it, and that's my little talk on the healthcare and the Constitution. I hope that it was clear. I hope it was filled with information, and I'll see you. I'm going to work on that immigration reform kind of thing. I'll probably write it in my blog, and I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.